And everybody is still down. Back to sitting. As you return to your seat. And take a deep breath.
The Army has a quick way of getting people to answer that.
What do they do?
Are we recording yet?
Yes, go ahead and record. What does the Army do?
Oh, they overwhelm you with sound.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know that you need to.
Oh,
pay
yeah.
attention. Oh, all right.
From a producing.
So more work for hypnotists later. Ah, yes, yes. All right, so Tish talked to us about the mind. I'm now going to talk to you about the body. And how does neuroplasticity and hypnosis go along with the body, and what can we do? So the first thing here is, and I'm really going to make this very practical. What do we see in our clients? What kinds of things do we find with our clients? And how can we change this as far as with hypnotic techniques? So if we're talking about a stroke, which is called a cerebral vascular accident, a CVA, and that's what you see up there at the top, says right CVA. So this is a stroke that's happened on the right side of the brain. And that's going to cause paralysis on the left side. There's a couple of really interesting things that go along here, is that you'll notice on these words that they tend to minimize problems. And oftentimes this is where somebody is not understanding that there's even an issue. What happens is our left side of the brain is the part that keeps our worldview. It knows the way things are. And it takes a whole lot for the right side of the brain to overcome that. This is why talking religious and politics with people is oftentimes futile, right? Because you just have to have so much to overcome it. When I was working in the nursing home as a nurse, we would have people sometimes that would have a stroke in a particular part of the right side of the brain. And they would go, put this arm in my bed. And they pick up their arm and they throw it out of the bed because it obviously wasn't theirs. They didn't have any kind of a problem and it wasn't moving. So it's obviously not theirs. Somebody put an arm in their bed. They throw it out. So this can be a problem, and also the short attention span can be something that we need to really think about as hypnotists, because we may need to move things along a little bit more quickly. We may need to change things up a little bit more when we're working with these people. They can have impaired judgment. They can be impulsive, again, because that right side isn't there to be able to say, hey, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. If we take a look at the left side, so now we're having a stroke on the left side. We're going to have paralysis on the right side. This one, you'll remember that Tish talked about, we have all the language centers on the left side. So this is where we're going to be starting to have problems with people. It's kind of like having a file cabinet, and that file cabinet's been ruined. And now we have to rebuild that file cabinet. So how do we understand words again? It may be, as Tish was saying, it may be that they don't understand the words that are coming in, but they can speak just fine. Or maybe they can understand what's coming in, but they can't speak. They can't say what it is that they want to say. So sometimes what people do is they go back and they start reading children's stories. Ball, dog, red, getting those ideas, rebuilding that file cabinet. Oh, one other thing about this one is because these people, they do understand what happened, we can see some depression and anxiety. Now, of course, you can see that with people that have left-sided strokes also, we can see that both ways. But it's a little bit more common when they've had stroke on the list. Brains match themselves to their input. How many times do we see clients that were told when they were young, you're stupid, you'll never amount to anything, you can't do anything right. Then maybe they have a teacher that says, wow, you did really good on that test. A friend who says, you are such a good friend. I so appreciate how you stand beside me. A boss that says, you did amazing on that. The way that you thought about that, and you thought outside the box and brought all of that together, that was fabulous. So, brains match themselves to their input. As hypnotists, this is something that we need to be aware of. So we can change beliefs. Laurie Hammond talks about the 3 B's. We've got body posture, breathing, and belief. Many of us use that technique. See a circle there. Put somebody in that circle that you really admire. Who do you like? It can be somebody that you know. It can be a fictional character. It could be somebody from the past. Anybody that you like. Put them there in that circle. What is their body posture? Body posture. How do they hold themselves? How do they move? What's their breathing? Are they breathing shallow? Are they breathing deep? What are they doing? And what is their beliefs? What are the thought bubbles that are going on in their mind? Really see that, notice that, feel that. Now, step into that circle, step into that person. How does that feel? Yeah. Now, I told you I wanted to make this very practical. So what I want to do now is we're just going to separate into, perfect actually, groups of 3. Look, we've got 3 and 3 and 3. Perfect. And then we've got our outliers here, and those 3 can get together also. And then I believe that we have 3 people on Zoom. What we're hoping works for those of you on Zoom is that we're going to turn off the microphones in the room for the Zoom people, and you'll be able to talk amongst yourselves in the Zoom. We're hoping that that works. And what I want you to do is I want you to take about 10 minutes and come up with some ways, share with each other techniques that you use in order to help your clients. If they have had a physical problem and they want to do something, maybe they've had a stroke and they want to do something. Maybe they want to get better at something. Perhaps they have that body posture, those beliefs that they want to change. So what are some techniques that you use in your practice or with your friends? If you don't have a practice, what do you use with your friends? What do you use with people that you meet? Maybe it's different colleagues. So Todd, I know that you work with other people and that you use a lot of what you have learned with your teams. So does that make sense? Are we clear about what it is that I'm asking? And we're going to be using that later. So you need to come up with some things. All right. You can't just sit there and visit for 10 minutes. You need to come up with some things because I will be asking you for them. All right. Any questions? Okay, we're going to take about 10 minutes to do that.
So if you want me to put the microphone on here?
What?
You want me to manipulate the microphone?
Or
Yeah. Then-
Michelle, are you on Zoom?
I see you, Joy.
Yeah.
Client and they can't do one. And then when they get tired, so I support them, and
I think they're trying to
and it
figure out
applies
their microphone.
Hi, Denise. So you hear me?
Oh, there's Joy.
I can hear bits and pieces, but I'm just getting like every other.
Maybe.
Michelle.
Okay, now say something, Michelle.
I can hear sort of, but I don't know. And there's a lot of background noise. Could you put us in a breakout room or something?
Well, we were trying to do that earlier. The option to create breakout rooms isn't on the screen. And so we weren't exactly sure how to do that.
I'm just getting about every third word that you're saying.
Joni is going around trying to mute everybody else. So they're reducing.
Well, basically, if Michelle and
How's
I
that?
try and talk, we're not gonna be able to really hear each other. Oh, that's better.
Wow, what did you do?
That's good.
Now the sound from my end is making it harder for them to hear.
Okay. Well, anyway, who else is on Zoom? Larry, are you on Zoom?
So if you mute yourself. Yeah, just use that. Now, can you hear me, Michelle?
Yes,
Okay. And was the background noise okay when I wasn't speaking?
yeah, yes.
Okay, so Michelle and Joy, share something that you would use. And I'm just gonna keep this one muted while you're talking. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm unmuting myself now. Okay, Michelle, do you want to share something that you use for clients or friends or family?
So with clients, I use the circle of power, the circle of excellence.
Mhm.
It helps them to remember times when they were capable and feeling good. It helps them associate into a resource state.
Mhm.
It's something physical that I have people like stand up and do if they're able to. So I really like that it's got that, somatic, kinesthetic engagement.
Mhm.
So I like the circle of power a lot.
Yes, I think, well, Joy and I talked about the head electrician metaphor that I picked up in my NLP health certification training, where you basically, as a metaphor, treat that there's a part of the brain that takes care of all the electrical functions in the body, and to have it go back in time to a time either like before the stroke or before the traumatic brain injury, to look at the blood thread of what the nervous system was like then, compare it to now, and then repair any neurological differences between the two blood brains. And that you can throw in the head chemist, to change the chemistry of the body. There's the head janitor, which can also like engage the lymphatic system to sweep out any cells that have lost their function. So it can be adapted to lots of different things. I've even used it to help people heal from sunburn and acid reflux and all kinds of different things. So it's a very useful process. So that's one of my favorites. The other is the neurological level measures with from NLP. We have set up the spatial anchors for the 6 different levels of change: the environment, behavior, capability, beliefs and values, identity, and mission of purpose. And then you have them set an anchor for each one of those, a spatial anchor on the floor. And just by accessing experiences from each of those categories, and then neurologically lining them down by taking, for example, how to associate the feeling of their mission, and then step that into their identity. How does the mission inform their identity? Then how does the mission or identity inform their beliefs and values? Then how does all that inform their needs, the behaviors, all the way down to the times and places in the environment? So those are probably my top 2. Joy, you've worked with that process before, correct?
Yeah. Probably the most recent procedure would be the Rick Green, the best, where he took people on a journey, and then you cross a creek with stones, and the first one is B, then E, then S, and then T. I've used the Circle of Excellence before. I've also, I use the word see, feel, or know because everybody is not visual. So I usually listen to people's story or their goal or intention, and then I begin with this. It's almost like an art story, creating a story for their imagination, for making shifts, anchoring, and positive suggestions. So it was kind of tricky to hear you, but yeah. I haven't had a lot of hypnotherapy clients lately, but I find that even people coming for a massage, everything's become so integrated. Something will come up for them and they'll ask some questions, and so it's almost laying down some support through their imagination just in the massage, and then the practice of presence awareness and shift seem to take place in that way as well. It's interesting to observe. But I know when I worked with you, Larry, because I am visual, I was able to see, and even after the session, able to receive shifts that were going on. So it was very interesting self-witness in the, the magic of storytelling. So.
Yeah, story is huge. I'm a believer that you can virtually take any process and put it into a story of some kind, and do it hypnotically that way as well. So that's a great suggestion to it.
I've really come to hypnosis as all what stayed with me is all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And I've definitely had experiences where I was not able to get, where I felt I was not able to get through the critical factor of someone's experience, and yet I brought in my awareness of working with thought pattern management when I was hypnotized with my eyes open. So just the power of story, the power of suggestion with the, subconscious mind. I feel that everything takes place. It matters. I mean, what Tish or somebody was mentioning earlier, you put the thought out there it's already there, and we're not really separate. We're connected through the plasma and the ether in all the various ways I've experienced a lot of studies. So I know, and virtually I've worked with animals. It's just fascinating. For me as a therapy practitioner, it's a whole self-responsibility to be very clear, heart-minded, and come out of the mind and into the moment. And anyway, that's a lot of talking. You have more to say, Michelle?
Well, in talking about the storytelling, one of the things that I'll do is ask people what they enjoy. What are some of their favorite activities, if they have any hobbies or things that they enjoy doing, and use and take them through an experience of that while layering in direct suggestions about what they want to experience, what their goal is. So reconnection with being able to breathe easier. I used to love working with quilters because quilters have, I mean, there's so many opportunities for metaphors with people who do quilting, sewing, costuming, any kind of fabric work. Scrapbookers are, they do really, really well. And again, I think it's partly because that engages so many senses. You've got the internal dialogue going on about what they want to accomplish. You've got the visual colors and patterns. There's usually something sequential involved with it. And it's really, really tactile. So anytime I can elicit from people something they just really get lost in, they naturally go into that trance state because they enjoy it so
Okay.
much.
Did you get it?
Gardening.
Okay, it was fine. And then
All right, well, you did.
started the thing,
All right. Coming back. Thank you so much. I heard some wonderful conversations. It was great. What I would like to hear is one person share something that you would use when we had that stroke model. Okay, so somebody who's had a stroke and their brain isn't working quite so right, and you can choose like what kind of issue you want them to have had from this stroke, and what would be your intervention? What's something that you came up with? Who wants to go first? Yeah, Jim.
Do I need a microphone?
I don't know how you turn
On the bottom.
on the bottom. Oh, there. I think that was-
No.
Now it's on. So I have a friend who did just have a stroke, and it was right brain. And so a lot of things Joni said are relevant that I've been living the past couple months. And one thing I did, because he had paralysis on the left side, was I said, do you want blueberries? I went out and bought blueberries. He loves blueberries. And so I put a bowl of blueberries, and he started to reach with his right hand. And I said, you got to use your left hand. And he said, what? As he was reaching with his right hand. And I said, left hand, this is therapy. So then everything, I started giving him all kinds of different food with his left hand. And he said in about a week that he was starting to get proprioception in that hand again. And he is really noticing.
Somebody else or anybody from our Zoom calls? We have a Zoom person?
Thank you, thank you. So we discussed several techniques. I mentioned the head electrician metaphor from Bob Fletcher, who where you basically invite the head electrician as a metaphor, the part of the body, the part of the intelligence that manages the neurology, and to take a blueprint of the current neurology, compare it with the neurology of the before, like the stroke or the traumatic brain injury, and
have that part of the brain compare the two and then repair any connections between that have been damaged or lost, or and to reroute and that kind of thing. You can also throw in the head chemist to go in and take care of any hormones or chemistry that needs to be corrected. And of course, the head janitor to go in and with the lymphatic system to clean out any cells that are damaged or lost and that kind of thing. Both Michelle and Joy also offered some ideas. Is there a way we can get them to speak through the group or?
We can, I'm gonna stop it at those two for right now,
Okay,
because we're also gonna do this for more.
okay,
So yeah, we're gonna have lots of opportunities for sharing.
okay.
Thanks. Go ahead and turn that one off. Let's talk about the beliefs. Who have, if we go. Okay, so if we go backward to that body posture and the beliefs and that kind of thing, did anybody have something that they had for that one? And again, if it's somebody, if it's Joy or Michelle, I'm sure we can unmute them and we can probably hear them. So, yeah, again,
Well, I just, and it wasn't specifically for a stroke victim, but I find it useful to just let people know that they're not alone.
mhm,
And that you can almost see the relief as they start believing that.
yeah,
'Cause in this society, people really think they're alone. And if you just convince them otherwise, it's a big relief.
it is. I'm gonna pause it for just a moment. Was Michelle and Joy, were they able to hear that, or do we need that microphone?
Let's try.
No, we could hear that.
Okay. All right, did you want to say something, Renita?
Yes, I've been working. Yes, I've been working with one of my granddaughters who has an issue with drugs, and we've been trying to find housing and resources for her for the last 6 weeks. It's been very difficult. I finally got her a place when she was in a homeless shelter, but her anxiety wouldn't let her stay there, so she was out on the street again that very night. She left and wandered around streets. And then I got in touch with another person that had been trying to help her too. And his native came down last night or yesterday when I contacted him. And and he came and said he put her, keep her there and keep her safe. So that word's kind of off the chart, off my mind now. But what I've been doing too with her is, besides finding resources, listening to her negative self-talk and helping her change that and calming her down, saying, okay, just deep breathe, take it easy, put it down. And this is like constant, okay? But basically she's saying, I hate myself because of the choices she's made in the past. And so we're working with that. So that's wiring her brain, but she's also got brain damage. So all of this is relevant. And we're working to get employment to that. So there's a lot to this, but a lot of it is learning that she can change and she can make better choices and have belief that she can do that. So.
Okay, thank you for sharing those. The next one I want to talk about is pain. What happens with pain is that it's a really nasty little thing. You've got this one area of your brain where it is registering the pain, and it will start to take over other parts of the brain. So you've got this thought that everything is pain, instead of the pain being this one little piece, and there's everything else, because that pain is taking over the brain. So what we want to do then is to be able to take back those areas those areas that pain is taking over, we want to take those areas back and have that being used for something else. So I want you to do something. It was kind of fun when we were going through this, when Scott and Tish and I were going through this. When I asked them to do this part, Scott pinched his arm so that he could feel the pain. So then he could notice what the change was. So if you want to pinch your arm, go right ahead. If you don't want to pinch your arm, I totally understand that. But what I want you to do is I want you to just notice now a sound that is in your environment. And when you notice that sound, what is the taste? How does that sound taste? And now, notice a color. Look around and find a color in your environment. What sound does that color make? All right. So for those of you that were pinching yourselves, did you notice a difference in the sensation? Yeah, I see some nodding heads here.
While you're pinching, while you're doing the exercise?
While you're doing the exercise, yeah, now we need to do it again. Okay, well, you can do it again later, Jean, because we do have it all recorded. And this is a great way, this is mindfulness, right? This is something that Scott's going to be talking about, is being very mindful of what's going on. And this is a way that we can take back those parts of the brain. And we truly are. We are taking back those. If you look at somebody and you're doing like an fMRI on them, you can see within the brain that pain area is getting smaller and these other areas are lighting up. So we can take back that. So now I'm going to ask again, of the techniques that you talked about when you were in your groups, what technique could you use in order to change the experience of pain? I'll bring this to you. Everybody can hear.
Yeah, I think a body scan is great for just singling out different parts of the body. It's real simple. You can have them look for specific things each time you go through the body. And it's similar to a progressive relaxation, but you're doing it for a different reason now.
Yeah, thanks.
And this is kind of hard to cruel, but determine what the second gain is. Okay.
When you were speaking that, it made me think of music. You mentioned that German music, but I remember when I was in the hospital in a lot of pain from back surgery. Your mind goes there. It just cannot not go there. But when I had a visitor come and we chatted, it went away. It was like I didn't even notice until they left. And so I was thinking of having them play music, their favorite music, and get into the music, and it will transport them out of the pain, and then tell them that each time you listen to this, it reduces your pain, reduces it every time you listen. Yes, distraction.
Love that. Those are all really great. Thank you so much. Next, an accident. Somebody who has nerve damage. We talked about brain, but what about if you have nerve damage in your body someplace? I was on it was a training by Zoom, and they had some breakout rooms. One of them was just a cafe, and you couldn't see the other people there, but you could talk to them. And there was a gentleman there who had some sort of an accident, and he was basically paralyzed. all the way down, you know, like he has some major nerve damage all the way through his body. So what he started doing was he started with his toes, and he would just look at his toes and he would think about his toes moving. And finally he'd get the toes, and then he'd do the feet, he'd do the legs, and he moved all the way up the body. And he says now that he has really pretty good function. And that, you know, he really is doing quite well. However, he couldn't see his face. So he forgot about his face, and he didn't do anything with his face. And so you can't really tell. If I could, he stated that if I could see him, I wouldn't be able to tell, like, are you smiling or not? Because he didn't see his face, so he didn't think about doing his face and doing something with his face. So again, what he was doing there was he was just changing those neuronal pathways. The pathways that used to work didn't work anymore, so he made new pathways. There is a type of body work that's called Feldenkrais, and that's what they do, is they find new pathways, new ways of doing perhaps old habitual patterns. So again, of the things that you talked about, are there any, or what would you use if somebody had an accident, some sort of nerve damage? What would you do? Does anybody on our, I'll let you keep monitoring that one, Larry.
Well, it seems like you could go back to the Bob Fletcher, you know, head electrician idea. I know he used to use like even like a cream and have the cream, for instance, spread all the way down a particular, you know, creating a new pathway, or nourishing in a cool and calm all the way down the nerve fiber. If you had a particular way to show them on a poster or etc. You know, I think there's a lot in the Bob Fletcher techniques. So that was my share.
That's wonderful, thank you.
I like the idea of the visualization for a whole lot of things, not just for nerve damage, but for performance. And sometimes there is some damage or underdeveloped areas of the body that a coordination that they haven't experienced before. So the visualization part in martial arts, if somebody's going to be performing, they're doing board breaking, they're flying over people, they're doing kicking, forms, sparring, how relaxed are they, what position are they in, all those kinds of things, and visualizing over and over again deeply, and the body starts to improve, the coordination starts to improve. They can visualize the exact positioning of the body when they're doing, for instance, a jump spinning kick. There's a lot of little nuances in that, but if they can visualize that in slow motion, and their performance improves amazingly. So I would imagine that the nervous system would be able to adapt to that just with visualizing, because you're sending signals to the area of the body that needs to be improving, and it's listening.
Great, thank you. Anybody?
Imagine myself doing a spinning kick.
A spinning kick, yeah.
Maybe start small.
Yeah.
Start with spinning.
Oh, it's stuck again. You need to go to the machine, please. Perfect. That was a great segue. Thank you very much, Stephen. I appreciate that. So here we are improving the sports performance. And it was really interesting because the axons are actually getting closer to the muscle. And when you are doing something like that, when you're really visualizing, really thinking about and actually making the moves with your body, like you're just feeling the moves with your body, that pathway is still being used. You're still getting that neuron message going to the muscles. It's just not quite enough to make the muscle move. but you're still getting the message. I was reading just this morning, so many, wow, must have been like mid-70s. There was an experiment done with basketball and doing free throws. And basically there were 3 different groups. They tested everybody to start with. One group did nothing. They just went about their lives. Another group, they are the ones that practiced free throws for an hour every day. And then the third group just sat on the sideline and thought about making those free throws. And the first group, of course, didn't change as expected. The second group that was actually practicing, they got better. The third group that was sitting on the sideline actually got even better. Now, there have been a number of studies since then. And the interesting thing that I found this morning was that there was a group and they would run down the court, stop, and think about doing that free throw. And then they'd run down the court the other direction and stop, think about doing that free throw. And they actually did the best because they were putting some movement in there. Watching somebody, so seeing somebody else doing it perfectly, and then imagining yourself doing that, stepping into those shoes, that was even more helpful. Some people have a hard time visualizing what it would be like. They, like that jumping, spinning. Yeah. Okay. So if you could slow that down, if you could take a video of that and slow it down, so then your client can really get the understanding of how the body is going to move in order to make that happen. Can you see how this would help with a golf game? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So you've got it exactly the way that you want it to be. And you can practice it. And that's another thing I love about hypnosis is all of these things that you've talked about today, we can practice over and over and over again. If we're doing it in real life, how many times can you do a jumping, spinning thing, right? How many hours can you spend on the golf course doing this, right? But we can do that in our minds. We can go over and over and over it again. If you have paralysis, you may not be able to do the toes over and over and over and over again. You can think about it. You can remember what it was like. You can think about when you were a child and you dug your toes into the sand. You can think about that. So that's what we can do with the hypnosis. Does anybody have anything else that they had talked about that would be applicable to improving sports performance? The people at home can hear.
Michelle brought up the circle of excellence, so you could.
So picking up on the visualization thing, some of the top golfers in the world can recall a shot that they didn't do very well, days before, even months before, and know that they recorded it and they know exactly how to fix it. And it's not just about visualizing something in the future, it's also seeing where you erred in the past.
Excellent, thanks. Yeah, perfect.
Joy, did you want to comment?
Are you talking to me, Larry?
Yes.
Oh, I was just referring back to the NLP with the circle of excellence that Michelle was mentioning. And that's all, was just a quick input. And I like Joni reminding everybody that not everybody is visual, right? So unless you're seeing a body in a shape, I like to use the word see, feel, or know, because there are people, if they have their eyes closed, that cannot visualize. So, thank you.
Yeah, those are really good points. Imagine is a really nice word, isn't it? We can imagine, and we can imagine in music. We can imagine in colors, whatever it is for a person, imagine. Anybody else? All right. Celebrate the wins. This one is so important. We really need to celebrate the wins. We've heard about dopamine, right? And dopamine is when it makes you feel good, but it also is a nasty little thing, or it can be, because it's the one that is seeking. It's the one that makes you want more of something. It's the dopamine that causes people to want more of the sugar, the fat, the salt, whatever their drug of choice is. Okay, it's the dopamine. Let's hijack it. Let's teach our clients how to hijack that dopamine. We celebrate the wins. So if you're working with somebody and they say that they want to exercise more, I want to get out and I'm going to walk. My question always is, what is the best that you can do on your worst day? What is the best that you can do on your worst day? And that is going to be where you're going to start. You can go from there. So it may be putting on your shoes. So you put on your shoes and then you celebrate. You go, yeah, all right, look at me. I got my shoes on. Woohoo, I'm great. Yeah. Yeah. And what that does is it makes the dopamine. It makes that dopamine. So then the next day, you put on your shoes and you get to the door. Yeah, look at me. I'm at the door. I'm doing so good. Yeah, this exercising thing, I got this. Yeah. Which gives you the more dopamine. So maybe the next day you make it all the way out to the sidewalk. And then maybe the next day you make it down the sidewalk for a block. Make sure you've got that dopamine. And even if you're having a really bad day after you've made it all the way down the sidewalk for a whole block, the next day, it's just a tough one, and you've had a hard day, and the rain is just pouring down, and you don't feel like it, but you put on your shoes. Yes, look at me, I put on my shoes, because what you're doing is you are changing who you are. You're getting that dopamine, and you're changing that belief of who you are. I am a person that moves. I am a person that exercises. So teach your clients to celebrate and really celebrate. And they don't want to do that. They go, well, it looks stupid, you know? I don't care what looks stupid, do it anyway. It's got the dopamine and it feels really good. They're going to like that feeling. So let's get crazy here for a minute. We've talked about a lot of things. What if, with mindfulness, with what we're thinking about our bodies, what if we could be aware of our blood pressure? Our blood pressure. What if we could be aware of our heart rate? What if we could be aware of our microbiome, inside and out? Wouldn't that be interesting? What if we could be aware of the blood pressure, the heart rate, the microbiome of other people? Is that what intuition is? Interesting thought. So I'm going to leave you with this. Do what the nuns do. They did a study of nuns and they looked at their brains after they died and they found lots of Alzheimer's plaques. These women should have had Alzheimer's. They had no symptoms of Alzheimer's or very few symptoms of Alzheimer's. And this is what they did. They played. They played, have fun, go do something that you enjoy, play, argue. And that's not just holding your own position, but when you really argue with somebody, you've got your position, you have to be able to defend your position. But we also want to open up our minds to somebody else's position. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with them. We may or may not. I don't know what your right side of your brain is going to do. But we can open ourselves up to the thoughts, that it might be a different way. So argue. Keep active, keep moving. You know, people are always looking for that silver bullet, that one thing that's going to make them more healthy. That's it. Movement, exercise, over and over and over again in all the studies. It's exercise, it's movement. Helps your body, helps your brain. Move and learn new things. Learn new things. So playing that same game over and over and over again on your phone and cutting it. You gotta play new games, find different ones, do new things, learn a new language, learn something else, maybe learn about the brain, but do something. So do it enunciate, play, argue, keep active, and learn new things. What questions do you have? Any questions there? Nope. All right. So there's some interesting reading for you. We're going to take another break now. We will come back in about 10 minutes, which will put us at 3:40. So we'll be back in about 10 minutes and we'll see you then.